Perfect. Okay. Well, we have had so much fun today. We are like exploring a bunch of new use cases, and experimenting a bit. Imagine a court in the metaverse where you like have to access through your VR helmet, and then you have to solve disputes involving humans, involving AIs, and maybe other jurors are going to be AIs. So this is the type of things we are experimenting now, in particular regarding disputes happening around content moderation, like IP stuff. So, I mean, I cannot really comment too much because I don't want to spoil it for you, but we're having like a super, yeah, fun about this, and this can take us to really important use cases in the future. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Maybe next week I can tell you a bit more. Um, but let's see what we have for this week. We have mostly from my side. I'm working on my presentation for HCC. Um, so I'm going to be speaking about well, again, AI and how well the different elements we have discussed and researched over time regarding Kleros and AI. So the first time we investigated this was in 2019 after we launched the Dodges on Trial pilot. um, do you remember, if you are an old timer, you had this curated list of dodges, and then uh, people could make some money and get some reward if they got a dodge submitted and accepted into the list. And then they could make a huge, I mean, reward bounty payment if they got a cut accepted by the jurors. And at that time we started seeing, okay, you have a people verifying if an image is a Doge or not a Doge, but you could use the AI for that. And so image recognition and stuff like that. So that is the first time we came up with some ideas about the interactions between Kleros and AIs. And well, in that time, we developed also the hypothesis that we still have about like simpler cases will be resolved uh, through automated means. Some AI tool can do it like faster and cheaper than more complex cases that require some more like human interpretation, because they need to understand a bit of the intentions of parties. Things like that will be done probably by humans in a setting like decentralized justice with crowdsourcing. And then for more complex situations where you will need well, legal reasoning, or you will need a more complex understanding of the case. Also, maybe because this involves also ethical decisions. So that is going to be resolved probably through um, well, traditional dispute resolution methods like they work now. So that is the first time we thought about AI and Kleros. Obviously way before all of the hype of the generative models. So that was 2019. So after that, well, time went by, and we started experimenting a bit again with AI when we started working with Lemon, but in a different way. So Lemon um, have cases between, well, customers and the company, and so those cases are sent to Kleros, and customers at the beginning were producing like a claims report to send to the Kleros court, and the company would answer with the lawyers. The legal team will produce the answer. What happened is that there was like an imbalance between the company that was producing a very well researched and reasoned case, and the customer who, well, he's not necessarily a lawyer and doesn't necessarily have to write very clearly. So what happened is that the company would win most of the cases because of this imbalance, and we started using AI to help improve, like ChatGPT, basically to help improve the position, if you want, of the one of the party of the customer. And this started to make the playing ground more, balanced between both parties, and we started seeing that, well, cases started to be more, I mean, fair, and the whole legitimacy of the system went up, and people started to believe that, I mean, that this could actually work in a fair way. And that is another example, in using, um, Kleros using AI as a lawyer of the party. So this is another of the things I'm going to speak about in my ATC talk, and also how we are now starting to research the use of AI agents as actually jurors, and the different ways in which one can combine humans and AIs in order to resolve cases in a way which is deemed fair by parties, and also in a way that is also efficient, because you want the disputes to be resolved in fast and efficient way. You don't want to spend much money, and you want it also to be solved fast, right? So at some point we will make a marketing, campaign about, Kleros, justice in one day. Imagine going to court in the morning, and then on the evening you have your decision, and then you can move on with your life, and you don't have to spend more time worrying about this. So this is all of the things I'm going to speak about at NCC. Um, then we will have another talk by Clement about future key, and William also. I mean, I will let William explain himself what he's going to speak about. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about peer prediction and sort of like existing academic work on that and how it applies to blockchains, and then how like we're trying some different things, in our research at Kleros. The basic idea is that people have, particularly computer scientists, sort of a field touching between computer science and economics, have thought about incentivization schemes for crowdsourcing. So that's very Kleros, in the Kleros wheelhouse. That typically make use not only of people sort of saying what option will win the case, what other people will vote for, but they give predictions of like the rates at which other people will vote for certain options. And then you can use this sort of richer information to pick out um, information about the people voting that you can use to have interesting sort of incentive and voting systems that are richer in some way than what we typically use in version 1 of Kleros. And the downside of many of these approaches so far is that they're not very collusion resistant. You can, these extra pieces of information you're providing as a voter are extra things that one can manipulate. So you have to be really careful when you're trying to make such a thing attack resistant. There has been slowly some academic work that has tried to do peer prediction in these constraints that that acknowledges that blockchains are very hostile spaces and there are all kinds of attacks. So you have to really prioritize collusion resistance. And I particularly have thought about how we can use some of these ideas to have dispute kits that are calibrated for situations where there's like a really high imbalance between the rates at which, say, a client and a company have lots of disputes. You have like really formulaic disputes where like you have like predictable two sides from one dispute to the next, and the rate at which one side wins is much higher than the other. So, for example, in these lemon disputes, we got a more balanced rate of clients winning by having the evidence improved by with ChatGPT, as Federico was talking about. But like in some cases, it might just be the case that you like.
That's me, or can you hear?
Yeah, I didn't. I have the same issue. William,
Yeah.
sorry,
Okay.
I
So
think you have a
it's not
problem
me.
with your. Yeah.
Are you there, William?
Have I been talking for like
No, no, no,
5 minutes?
not for so long. No, not for so long. It was like for 15 seconds. So we understood most of it.
Okay, good. So I was wrapping up. I'm not sure exactly where it fell off, but I was basically just saying that like we're experimenting in our research with these new peer prediction mechanisms that are inspired by this existing literature, but more to deal with these cases where you have imbalance between which side typically wins a dispute and like what's the appropriate incentive system for that. So I'll be talking about that at Cannes.
Can you give us like a small, teaser of what is the right way to do this?
Yeah, so the idea that I've been exploring, I have a blog article about this from several months ago, but we've been trying to expand and do variations on this. So if you want the like research as it existed a few months ago, you can check out our blog. I think I have an article called something like "Uncommon Outcomes: Lessons from Peer Prediction" or something like that. But the core idea that we've been exploring is that you use people's predictions of what other people will like, the rates at which people vote for other outcomes, to give a sense of whether cases tend to be clear cut or not, and then basically you ramp up the stakes on cases that are very clear cut. So that way, if you're just voting randomly or you're just always voting for the side that wins most frequently, like you vote for the company because the company wins 95% of the time, you just vote for them without looking. In a case that is deemed to be clear cut on behalf of a client, you'd really get slashed. So like the jurors who are really putting an effort to look at the case details will realize that the client has a good argument, and they will, they may or may not vote for the client based on that argument. But you, as the sort of lazy person who's just always voting for the company, your stakes and what you can potentially lose in these cases are supposedly like strongly on behalf of the client will have the highest stakes, whereas cases that are kind of fuzzy and you don't really know, like both sides have a clear argument, you take the deposit is not as high. So this way you can penalize people. You can sort of pick out lazy strategies a little better, and you can penalize them without creating an average penalty, which is as high for someone who is an average user and is mostly only going to be penalized on the hard cases that are sort of less clear cut. And then if you're thinking about this from like an attack resistance perspective, like what's the security model, because the sort of peer information about like which sides are whether the case is fuzzy or not, which sides are more likely to win, is mostly being used for how big the stakes are, how big the vote stake is, instead of like who wins the case or like what side you should vote for in order to be penalized or rewarded, which still uses a sort of Kleros logic of you want to vote for the side that gets the most votes in order to be penalized or in order to be rewarded, and you're penalized if you don't. You don't have the same kind of attack issues that you might have in a lot of collusion against peer prediction mechanisms. Instead of having an attack that can change the outcome, you just have like a grief that can raise the stakes. Like if someone really wants to pour money into like causing harm to other users, they can create manipulative predictions, which will then have the result that people's stakes are higher. So like there's more risks than there should have been in the system. So maybe that creates a negative user experience for people, but it ultimately doesn't change results.
But let's say I am like a user who I'm lazy and I notice that most of the time the customer wins. So I just want to. I would just vote for the customer, and then okay, the time I vote, I lose because it's 10% of the cases the company wins. It's okay. I can take that as part of my estimation of reward, right?
Yeah, so we've always
yeah.
thought about parameter calibration in Kleros from the perspective of making that unprofitable. So if someone is just voting for the most common outcome, that should be a losing strategy on average if they're not taking the time to like differentially notice that like some cases the company has a better case than in others. And then the question is, how do you do that in cases that are really unbalanced without having like really high deposits? And these different incentive mechanisms try to get at that.
Okay, cool. Well, that's going to be a really interesting, talk. Okay, so great. Anything else you want to comment about the week or yeah?
On the topic of parameters, we have a new parameter update which has been proposed or that I proposed recently. It's on the forum. People can check out. If anybody has comments, they think the parameters are too high, too low, misadjusted. I invite people to give me feedback. Like I proposed a bunch of parameters using this like calculator that I developed. But ultimately, some of the inputs to that calculator are things about how much effort different tasks are, how hard it is to be a juror in different kinds of cases, which people in the community, that are resolving those cases like know best. So this is we have an open governance process. Anybody can post parameters, and I proposed parameters this time, but I always enjoy good feedback.
So you heard William. You help William put better parameters, so it's good for Kleros and good for you. Okay, thank you, William. Oh, I don't know if Clément, you want to mention about your talk at CC or what you were doing at Manifest. That could be interesting also for the audience.
Clement, I sent you the request. Not sure if you got it.
If you want,
Yeah, go ahead.
I can give my updates in the meantime. Sure.
Okay.
Plutarchy, so that was a bit similar to what I was talking in Stanford. Manifested a lot of people on either obviously the prediction market, but also the rationalist community. So it's interesting because we don't often see them in crypto, but here there was some sort of intersection. We really see that here almost everyone is like take as a given that AI is changing everything. So that was really interesting to see that it was like the default opinion. And there were also a few other talk on Futarchy, but we don't see much people developing Futarchy actually. Like the only thing we saw on Futarchy was MetaDAO, which was on Solana, Seer and Seer project, and Butter, and both Seer and Butter are using Kleros as an arbitrator. So currently the world, and I almost forgot Futarchy.fi because I included it in Seer. Futarchy.fi with Robin Hanson as chief scientist. So we have like basically 4 Futarchy projects, and 3 of them are on Ethereum and building on Kleros.
What is the rationalist community actually?
It's basically the less wrong kind of crowd. So you will have it's like a very wide in the political spectrum. So it goes from Robin Hanson on the conservative side to Ayla on the very progressive side, and it's kind of fun because it's really non-aggressive. So it's very crazy that you can see like a conservative speaker who's gonna talk with like someone who is like openly like trans, and they're gonna have difference of opinion, and they're not gonna hate each other because they are the rationalist community, so they want to have a rational discourse. So it's quite amazing because in pretty all other communities they will really be politicized, fighting. While here they have some kind of like truth finding as a goal. So I was quite amazed by that.
I mean, I guess that's the world as it used to be before social media,
I'm not sure. I think it's biased in the sense that what we know of the world before is mainly what was written, right? And people who write would be the most, like enlightened on average, obviously. And then the thing that they write that we still read today will also be the most enlightened thing that was written at the time. So I think there is a huge bias where we say, oh, like it was better before, just because the bad thing of before were either spoken or not the thing that we are reading now. So no, I don't think it was necessarily better before. I think it was even worse before, I think. And we have a bias in like survival bias in what we read now.
It's what Popper wrote, history was written at gunpoint by the winners. So I guess, yeah, it was biased.
So it's not just at gunpoint, it's about what we read now. Like if you look in the past, actually a bunch of even like serious authors were like openly anti-Semitic, for example. But we are not gonna like read like their anti-Semitic part. We're gonna read what is still relevant for today.
Okay, but what's the point of that?
My point is that I don't think it's necessarily worse. I don't think social media is making everything worse. It's just that
Okay.
people are gonna say stuff on social media that they will basically say at the bar before, and when it was said at the bar, no one would remember it. And on social media, it's just that now we can actually show it. But I don't think social media is making the discourse worse. And you can see that even people who are like, very rationalist, and like if you look at Robin Hanson, is he inflammatory? It's not very inflammatory actually. And you still get like
No.
a significant following. So like, for a university professor, with like conservative university professor, nothing very inflammatory. Like I'm just looking at his Twitter right now. And you get some following. Obviously, it's not gonna be the same thing as like social media influencer, well, like maybe they can just optimize for engagement. But I do think social media can actually help in finding among the crowd whoever is coming with the most interesting ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
And you also have, like you can put ID more easily than before. Like before, you already had, like you wanted to publish a book. Even like a bit before, you had to get an article, to get reviewed, to get published. Now people can, Vitalik is posting stuff on his blog or on his research. Academic are posting stuff on archive. I think actually internet is good for the diffusion of knowledge. So I would really not have a conservative view on that.
I agree there. I guess it's a new printing press. Before that, only what the church accepted could be copied in the monasteries. So this is the same. Okay, so all good. I will join the rationalist movement maybe. So sounds like a different way of interacting online. Okay, let's
Yeah,
go
I think
to
Shotaro had some
yeah.
knowledge of this.
Shutaro? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how deep he was into it. I'm probably a rationalist. It's just I'm not like necessarily a rationalist movement. Because I don't really have like time to go to all the rationalist meetup, but probably from like a philosophical perspective, I'm probably a rationalist.
Well, maybe Kant there's going to be one, right?
Say again?
No, I mean HCC should have a meetup of rationalist people, right? I guess.
So the thing is that a bunch of rationalists may be a bit suspicious of crypto because irrational pricing, probably, which may conflict with rationalism. But because of prediction market, most of the interesting prediction market thing happening in crypto, they obviously are looking at it way more closely. Even if it was a prediction market conference, it was not a crypto conference. So you had guys, like of Kalshi, people talking about predicted, which are centralized prediction markets.
Oh, okay. So it was good.
Yeah,
Cool.
and actually the organizer is Manifold, which is a play money Web2 prediction market.
Yeah, I've been following prediction markets since the Inkling markets. I guess this must be like 20 years old now. It was way before crypto. So yeah. Well, maybe
Yeah,
we
so I
will.
think like prediction market, they were already blocked by mainly regulators, and also like that it was pretty hard to get capital into those. And it's also good that regulators actually are there, because if you have like prediction market where it's centralized, you don't want the central operator to like gamble with people's funds, like FTX for example. So I really like the article of Vitalik, control as a liability. So if you have control of user funds, it's probably rational to be regulated. But if the system is something like Bitcoin, Ethereum, which is not controlled by anyone, in this case, well, what are you going to regulate? Like, because there is no one who can misbehave.
Okay. Anything else, Clement, from you for today?
No, I think that's all.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's go. Marcos, you want to continue?
Yes, sure. So from the BD side, for Kleros Enterprise, this week we have been creating some new cases about MedLife. Well, actually, we have been working with everything related to the case, what is anonymization, and everything that's again is related to the case. Then we created a few cases. Then we have some news from this company. Remember, we already mentioned this, but we have a company that is selling our services in South America, in some specific countries also outside South America. With them now we are preparing a new presentation to sell it to insurance companies. You know, as well, the integration with MedLife is going very well, and they are happy with the results. We want to start selling this to new insurance companies. So we're working with this. Then with Lemon, we have one case in queue that is going to be created most probably this week. And another new thing is that we are working with a new jurisdiction in Argentina that is called Junin. They want to do something very similar to what we have done, what we are doing actually with Mendoza. It's related to consumer and network conflicts. So this week we are going to be sending most probably 2 or 3 pilot cases to our courts. So there's going to be a lot of work for our jurors in the court for consumer and network conflicts.
Thank you, Marcos. Fortunato, do you want to continue?
I think Fortunato does not have the approval to speak here. I mean, he's as a listener.
I'm sending him.
By the power granted to me by the Kleros Republic, I authorize you to speak. But unfortunately, Twitter is a centralized operation, and
Looks like the spell did not work yet, but I see that he
centralized,
accepted.
beats decentralization, republic values. No? Okay, well, maybe you can continue, Jean, until the gods of Twitter give him the power to speak.
Okay,
Come
so
on, Elon.
Yeah, I think he's creating a party now, right? So maybe he's busy with that.
Exactly.
Okay. So
can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can hear you.
We improvise well, until we fix the problem.
Yeah. Definitely, the problems of centralization. So about the updates related to curation, in the last weeks we have been focusing on increasing the number of partners that pulls data from our registries. As you know, Kleros Curated Contract Metadata Registry is one of the largest, if not the largest, independent source of contract metadata. So as you know, we already have the very large partners like MetaMask and Etherscan, and we are already in touch with other players that are interested in using our data. About the news related to the product itself, we plan to restore both, so it's easy for users to stay updated about the last submission. So if they see something that it's wrong, that it's not compliant with the policy, they can challenge and earn something in the meantime. Also, we started developing the new UI for Kleros Scout to make the user experience a bit easier and more smooth, and have more users in general using our product. Other than that, yeah, next week we will be at DAPCon. So yeah, if some of you will be there, it would be nice to meet. Probably Jean can even give more info, as far as I know, you will be there too, right? Jean, can you hear
Yes,
me?
you're going to be there, Jean, right? Come on,
Sorry.
Elon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I need to. I'm still getting. I need to get a ticket, but I'll be there. And we are going to have a game that all participants of the conference will join, because it will be in the swag bag. So people will learn about the shelling point, and we will basically get an intuition of how Kleros works, and hopefully we'll get some jurors, new jurors in the court after that. And so one thing that I would like to mention about the Kleros Scout and the incentive program is that right now each submission calculated, it gets around $14 per submission, and as you know, the contracts and the tokens must not be tagged on block explorers yet. So it's all new. Only new submissions are accepted, and there are a couple more rules that that you need to comply with. For example, for Solana tokens, they need to have like a given amount of users holding that token to be eligible. But basically, if this is like a great opportunity to accumulate a PNK, and there are some courts now, especially on V2, that have really small amounts for minimum stake. So if you have a good month on Kleros Scout with submissions, you can certainly get your first stake, and of course, when you get used to it, you can increase your stake by more PNK and become a bigger juror, maybe stake on more courts. Also, I think we have probably 3 main jurors, main submitters on Kleros Scout. It will be great to have more people joining, and I think this is a good time. Also, we have the APY for staking on the court right now is close to 20%, 21% on mainnet and Gnosis chain. And we already mentioned this a couple of calls ago, but if you know someone that has not staked their PNK yet, please please recommend them to stake, because they will thank you. Because right now they are basically losing these rewards and even getting a little bit diluted. So it does not make any sense to not to stake. If they are maybe worried they will get selected for a case, there are some courts that will probably not receive cases, but just by staking, they are helping the security of the courts. And because if we have more PNK staked, then there is economic security of the courts is increased. And if the economic security of the courts is increased, then we can maybe get some other integrations that require that. So, and you also, of course, get your rewards. So it makes sense in different perspectives. There's absolutely no reason not to stake. Where else? Yeah, we have DAPCon next week. We have ETC in a couple of weeks, and probably we will have some escrow disputes also in the coming weeks, because there are a couple of partners that are looking to integrate the escrow, and there's one that wants to test it out. I think we'll probably see some dispute on Kleros escrow V2. So
imagine a dispute
just
about, a dispute with your plumber over. Dude, you didn't fix my the kitchen, and now it's full of water everywhere.
yes,
Okay, so
exactly.
you could be a juror in one of those cases.
Yeah, I think now with MetLife, we are receiving the cases that are very how can I say, they're real life cases. So there's this real life part that is also very present, right?
Common
Like
people,
someone,
everyday
yes,
people.
it's about a problem that someone is having that is impacting their lives. So and well, the jurors will need to handle that, because it's that's where the utility is, right? Because when you have a problem and someone's helps you handle that. So yeah, we
You
are
an,
delivering that, but
an
sometimes
idea
that.
an idea I had one time is, you go to the hairdresser, and then you tell him, of course, what you want as a haircut, and then you put the money like into an escrow, and then if you don't like it, then you can dispute it, and then jurors are going to see, okay, this guy asked for this, and then this is what he got, and then okay, let's see, and it's an escrow dispute, right?
Yeah, that's good. Maybe there's some clause like if it's not achievable or something like that. But
Or you go to the aesthetic surgeon, and okay, I want to look like, Margot Robbie, and then it doesn't work like that, so maybe you get your money back. And sometimes it is quite expensive. I mean, it's not that I don't want to look like Margot Robbie. I mean, but I'm imagining a woman.
yeah. So yeah, and just to recap the solutions that we have now, the escrow solutions, we have escrow v1 that the team has been working on revamp of the interface because it was really outdated, and after the team has finished the new components and the new how can I say, standardization of the components, they are now applying that to the v1, and I think it's already almost like testable. So we have that, and we have the escrow v2 that is now in beta, but it's completely functional. You can have disputes of 0.5 ETH or 2,000 DAI already, and there's a partner that will probably use that for a dispute. And we also have two new interfaces that Guamian coded. He actually vibe coded, but he also has knowledge about it. So it looks good to test. Maybe not good to put high amounts of money on these solutions. One is Escrowly, and it's an interface for Escrow v1. Another one is Lockler, and it's basically a module for Agnosis Safe, where you can send money and then have multiple people making requests from a single pool of money, or it's allows like lots of different types of requests to that pool of money. So it's like a flexible escrow, let's say. And it could be used, for example, for DAOs when they are giving a grant and they don't know who is the receiver of the grant. They can just send the money there, configure the policy, and anyone that completes the request can just request the money from the escrow and get it if there's no challenge. It uses like the optimistic process that we all know. It's the same similar flow of the as the Kleros governor. So yeah, with all these solutions, there are lots of different types of integrations that we could have, and there's also some partners looking at this, and we will be working with Parul or DevRel to have like a very clear documentation about the solutions, because there are people that want to implement escrows, and I think I don't know what you think, Federico and Clement. Did you expect escrows to be popular by now? Because people still tag Colby on Twitter, an influencer, to escrow, I don't know, bets, and it's at this point I don't think it should be like that, right?
I guess at least the Alice and Bobs of the world need an escrow that's reliable. I mean, it will happen at some point. So yeah.
Yeah, hopefully with these new interfaces to help. And now even Ethereum mainnet is cheaper, so even with Escrow V1, we actually have some users, right, that we found out they were using the Escrow.
Yeah. I mean, imagine, so for everyday transactions, you really needed some this to be cheaper. Otherwise you go to the hairdresser and use the escrow, and you have to pay $200 in gas fees. Yeah, that's not great. So if you want to have an increased amount of use cases that you need, lots of things that were not present at the moment we wrote the first white paper, because the case we were thinking about by then was this freelancer work for a few $100, and it was not very viable with the technology that was available back then, right? But it's like everything, things get better, cheaper, faster, so we will get there. Okay, well, I think that's it for today. I don't know, guys, if you have anything else. For me, it's enough.
Oh, one more thing. There's the DevConnect tickets in Buenos Aires can be purchased now. I think there's a discount for Argentinians, but they are live now. So if you want to come to Argentina, it's a good time to secure that.
I'm so happy, that we're going to have that connect in Argentina. That's going to be so awesome. We deserve that. Okay, well, guys, thank you all for coming, and see you next week. Okay. Bye-bye.
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 See you next
Bye-bye.
week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.